the Millennium Gate, constructed in the 21st century in the United States of America. It was another one of the objects that could be seen from orbit. 3.2 kilometers at the base, 1 kilometer in height, surface covered with highly reflective solar panels, a self-contained ecosystem.
It became a model for the first colony on Mars. Did you know that one of my ancestors built it?
Really?
No, not with a hammer and nails, but with words and a lot of courage. Shannon O'Donnell, one of the first woman astronauts. She was the driving force behind the project.
That's something to be proud of.
We were always told stories about her at family gatherings. The first of a long line of Janeway explorers.
Tell me more. I want something to stump Mr. Paris with.
Where to begin?
The Millennium Gate. How did she get involved with that?
Well, at that time, she was still in the space program. But she'd also become something of an entrepreneur. I believe she was asked to join the project by the governor of Indiana. He wanted her expertise on recycling life support systems. The way my Aunt Martha tells it, they flew her in on a private aircraft. It was built by one of my ancestors over 300 years ago. I've been digging through the historical database, but a lot of the information from that era has been lost or damaged. I thought you might be able to help me reconstruct some of it.
Is this relevant to our present mission?
It's relevant to me.
This ancestor of yours is 15 generations removed. You only possess a small fraction of her genetic material. Insignificant.
This isn't about chromosome 7. It's about character.
Explain.
Shannon O'Donnell inspired me when I was a girl. She had an influence on my imagination, on my goals.
I never realized genealogy could have such an impact.
Brushing up on Earth's history?
Captain Janeway requested that I research one of her ancestors.
Shannon O'Donnell.
You've heard of her?
Who hasn't? You mind if I lend a hand?
If you wish.
Sven Buttercup Hansen.
He was one of my progenitors, a 22nd century prize fighter. The captain encouraged me to investigate my genealogy as well.
Your ancestors can tell you a lot about yourself.
Somehow I doubt Buttercup has much relevance to me.
Well, the connection could be deeper than you'd think. Sven, 7.
A coincidence.
The point is, there's some of him in you, just as there'll be some of you in your descendants.
If I choose to procreate?
Well, I wouldn't dismiss it so lightly. Someday you might enjoy a little 7 of 9.5 running around. or not.
My research has failed. I found no references to this individual.
Well, genealogy is a lot like fishing. You've got to cast a wide net. Computer, expand record search for subject Shannon O'Donnell to include non-Federation databases, personal archives, and photographic indexes as well.
Reference found.
Oh, take a look at this. Shannon Janeway.
Where in the world did you find this?
A Ferengi database.
Ferengi?
11 years ago, one of their historians collected massive amounts of data about the origin of space travel in the Federation. He wanted to market it as a nostalgic gift item.
I would have been his first customer.
It's a handsome family, Captain.
These must be her sons and daughters, grandchildren, great-grandchildren.
I've also discovered journalistic accounts in the historical archives, mostly articles concerning resistance to the Millennium Gate.
The whole town was against her. Download this image for me, will you, Neelix? I'm going to frame it.
Well, they were a pretty ordinary bunch, salt-of-the-earth type people. Farmers, mostly. Some planetary colonists. Ah, but there was one He was a pilot. He flew the first orbital glider over the lower Martian plateau.
Mars? Your ancestor must have known the captains.
She did work on all the early Mars projects. Looks like we go way back, Mr. Barris.
What was her name?
Shannon O'Donnell.
O'Donnell. I don't think so.
What do you mean?
Well, I know all the Mars projects from the 1970s on. Unmanned, manned, who's who. There were no O'Donnells in any of them.
Come in.
Ship status report.
Let me guess. The holographic engineer is having problems with her program. Neelix, the Cardassian cook, is low on supplies. 7 of 12 is regenerating. And Captain Chakotay is doing just fine. Just wondering how they'll piece together our lives a few hundred years from now.
Depends on how big the pieces are.
A pad here, captain's log there, maybe a couple of holodeck programs. It won't be as much to go on as we might think. I've gone through dozens of histories written about 21st century Earth. All of them biased in one way or another. The Vulcans describe first contact with a savagely illogical race. Ferengi talk about Wall Street as if it were holy ground. The Bolians express dismay at the low quality of human plumbing. And human historians, exact same story. Every culture saw it a different way. So I go back to the raw material. Birth certificates, death certificates, marriage certificates, census surveys, voter registration forms, housing records, medical, employment, court records. It's all fragmented and incomplete.
So, did she exist?
Her name was Shannon O'Donnell. She did train to be an astronaut, but she didn't finish. She was an engineer, but never worked on the Mars missions.
Did she work on the Millennium Gate?
Only as a consultant.
What about all the opposition you spoke of? You said she fought to get the project underway.
There was no opposition. In fact, the Millennium Gate was greeted with open arms by the local population. Except for one man.
Henry Janeway.
She married him and changed her name. But she certainly never changed history.
Don't be too hard on her. She may not have known she was supposed to live up to your expectations.
Oh, I'll get over it. The question is, when we get back to Earth, how will I break the news to Aunt Martha?
Happy Ancestors Eve!
Happy Ancestors Eve.
What's all this?
It's April 22nd, Ancestors Eve. It's a holiday first established, today, actually, with the captain's permission.
Neelix.
I think he's onto something, Captain. An evening of reflection in honor of those who came before.
Here, here. Uncle Jack would approve.
It got me out from under a warp conduit. I'm all for it.
I appreciate what you're trying to do, but
Neelix, the gift.
what gift?
Shannon O'Donnell Janeway, circa 2050. We did a little more research. This photograph was taken in a small park near Portage Creek, 38 years after the dedication of the Millennium Gate. I thought it would look nice in your ready room, on the shelf next to your desk.
Thank you. And I'm not so sure she has a place there anymore.
You are mistaken, Captain.
Oh?
Her life captured your imagination. Historical details are irrelevant.
I concur with that analysis. If it weren't for Shannon O'Donnell, you never would have joined Starfleet.
Yeah, and I would have never got you all stuck here in the Delta Quadrant.
It gave us all time to get to know each other.
Time for a family portrait of our own. Everyone, gather round the captain, please. Face the camera. Smile.
To family.
To
Family. Another one for posterity.
No, no.
I think we should get out.
Enough is enough.